Okay, so in the previous video you saw we actually did set up this list view, right? So currently this is more like a dummy data. So what we want to do is, remember we created some controllers here in our project. We created some controllers. You see GetX controller, we have post controller here. All right, so we created a controller to help us get all posts. Let me open the postman. Let me open the postman so that we test these endpoints. Okay, so we are going to check our postman. I wanted to check something because I wanted to get all posts. Where you see this feed here, normally all the posts should display here. So that's the scroll, you see it scrolls, but actually, you know, this is a dummy data, so I want to get it from the API. But I now realize that from our postman, I'll show you that we cannot get all posts without being authenticated. Remember, we did some kind of authentication to the endpoints. Now if I want to get a post, right, I'm gonna click send right on my postman, and if you see it's sending, you can telling me you are not authenticated, please register or login. So that means before we get all the posts, remember we did this in a Node.js course. You can go back and go through the code. So I now know the request will have to be, you have to be authenticated in order to get all posts. Okay, that's one thing for sure. So that means automatically in this app project right now, the way it is, this app here, we cannot actually connect to the endpoint to get all this feed because we need to be authenticated. So at this point in time now, we need to design a login screen. Okay, or another way to do this, if we do not need to, for now I don't need to use that login screen, what I'm going to do is, to be authenticated now, look at this. All I need to do is I need to go and log in. So I'm going to come here. Remember, we have a login endpoint, right? So the login endpoint is this, right? Then in here we go to the raw, we choose the JSON, and then we pass in a JSON input as the object. So currently we have a user in the database. This is the email of the user, j81xs@gmail.com, and then this is the password, right? So if I click send, it actually goes to the database and logs me in, and it returns to me the user details and the token. This token here is what we are going to use in order to tell the API, or in order to know if the user is actually logged in or not. So this token, I'm going to copy it to the get all posts, right? And in get all posts, I'm going to come here to authorization, then I'm going to choose here bearer token. So this bearer token, I'm going to put it in here, and then I'm going to copy all this and paste it in here. So doing this, you can get all posts. Alright, so because I put the token here, we can get all posts. So now I don't actually, for now we are not going to design the login screen. We'll do that later. But for now, I'm just going to copy a valid token and use in our code, so that the API or the backend will know, okay, this is actually logged in. So we're going to use this token now today, or right now in our code. So let me just copy this token, because this is what we're going to use. We're going to put it like we're going to hard code it. We're going to hard code it in the project for now. So let me just come to this, my constant folder. I'm going to put here a static constant token access token. So the access token here is going to be a string on its own. Okay, so now we have this is a token. This token belongs to the user we just logged in here in the postman. The token belongs to. Okay, so we have this token here. So with this now, we don't need to design a login screen, because the main aim of logging in is to actually give us this token. But now we got the token from postman, so we're just gonna use it. But later on in the video, I'm gonna show you how to log in and get your own token. Okay, so now let's go to the UI, because now what we want to do is, remember that we actually previously created a controller, that is this controller that has to do with, that would have to do with post. Yeah, so post controller, we created it, and so this post controller you see now, let me open it. In here, this is the post controller. Let me close this. So in the post controller, if I scroll, this is create post, which we are not using it now. We're not going to use this create post. We're going down, we're going to use get all posts. So for this get all posts, we need to pass in to these posts, in this constant here, we need to pass in this access token, so that the app will know that this user is actually authenticated, because without the access token being passed into this endpoint, we cannot actually make API calls, because the app will need to validate if the user is logged in or not. So now let me show you how to pass a token, or how to pass a token here to your API calls in Flutter now. So in order to pass in the token here, what we need to do is, let me bring this down. What we need to do is, after we put the URI, so this gets the request here, it's gonna have two parameters. One is the URI, and the other one are the, let me say, the header. So we're gonna say headers, so the headers, and then we're gonna pass in the headers in here. So the headers now will contain the token which we are gonna get when the user log into the application. All right, so let me put this in here. So the header is gonna contain, let me just paste, I already have it here, so let me just paste it. So the headers now is gonna contain the content type, meaning that it's gonna be like application JSON. All right, it's gonna accept JSON, and then the authorization here is gonna be a bearer token. Okay, so this token for now is gonna be gotten from a constant class. So we're gonna have it from a constant dot so in the constant class we have it as access token. So we're gonna say constant here. Okay, now so this way the application is gonna know that this user is logged in, because we just assigned to it an access token. For now we are manually just putting it from the postman, but I'm gonna show you how to design a login screen, and then the login screen is gonna generate this token, and then we're gonna save it in a shared preference or some kind of temporary database, and then we're gonna use it. I'll show you how to do that later on, but for now I just want to design this feed so that we see all the posts. So that is it. Now we have the access token. So now that means we cannot make use of this endpoint. So now what I want to show you now is how to generate the response. How we're gonna get this response. It's gonna be in the form of JSON. Okay, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use this JSON, interpret it, and convert it to a Dart class. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to Postman now. So this is the login endpoint. So we have to first of all log in. I have to first of all log in, and after logging in, we have down here the API key, and then we will use this API key to get all the posts. So we use this API key to get all the posts, and then let me just press this, get all the side. So we got all the posts now. So now what we have to do is we have to convert this JSON class into something that we can use, right? We're gonna use this JSON class and display all the information on the mobile app. So now this is the interesting part. This is where I'm going to introduce you to QuickType.io. QuickType.io is a website that converts JSON kind of strings, JSON string to any kind of model you need. Alright, so let me show you how to use the QuickType.io now. Okay, so I'm in the QuickType.io website here, and as you can see, what we have here by the left hand side is a JSON object, and it's being converted to a Dart class. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna go to Postman. I'm gonna copy all our JSON, right? I'm gonna copy all of it, and then I'm coming back to QuickType.io. I will paste it here. I have to get rid of all of this. Okay, so I'll paste it here, and then I'm gonna call this all posts. It's gonna give to us all posts. Alright, so you see, we paste it in here and it generates to us a Dart class. Alright, so all I need to do is at this side come and choose the programming language you're using. I'm using Dart for now. Where is the Dart? And then it can show this to us. So I'm gonna copy this, and I'm going to create a class now. I'm going to create a class and paste this code. So I'm going back to my IDE. I'm going to create a class. So inside the models, I'm going to create a folder called API response. Okay, API response. So in here, I'm gonna create a class called all posts success. Okay, so when I see all post success, I will paste what we copied from the QuickType.io. I'm gonna paste it in here. Alright, so we're gonna make use of this, but they're showing me some kind of red lines. That's because there's something I need to do here. Let me do this, because I need to make this nullable. Just have to make all of it here kind of nullable. The same thing down here. I have to do the same thing. I have to just put a question mark. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm copying all the generated classes. We put the JSON here and it generated for us a class. So I copied this class, created a Dart file for it, and I pasted it inside the Dart file. So now it's showing the red lines. That's because I just need to make this nullable by putting a question mark in here. Then it will all be gone. So if it shows the red line, just know you have to make it put a question mark, put a question, kind of like a question mark here, make it all nullable. Alright, so this is it here. In here, just put a bang sign, in here I'm gonna put a bang symbol. The bang symbol here. I call it bang. It's an exclamation mark, but I call it bang. Okay. So put the bang sign here. Then in here, put another bang here. Okay. So we got the class set. So now our API is I'm gonna pass the JSON string from the API inside here. So what I'll do is come back to the post controller. And in here, I will just paste this. So I'm just gonna say decode response dot. So I'm gonna import. You have to import this, and then to return to us, if you come it here, if we call this method, right, it will return to us all post kind of object. So all post is a class to return to us this kind of a model, so we can now query the model or the object. So I'm gonna pass the string here, and then to return to us kind of like an all post object. So in here I'm gonna say return that's it. But it's showing a red line because we did not make this, but it doesn't need to return. So since we're using GetX, okay, the reason for this controller, now this is where we're going to apply GetX. So in GetX we're going to go up here, and at the top of the controller we're going to come say a var. We're going to call this var all post response. So all post response is going to be equal to initially all post an empty kind of model dot. We're going to make it observable, right? So that means initially this variable here, it is observable, meaning that it changes, okay, in any situation of the mobile app, at any time it could change, right? So it changes, that's what it means, okay? So what we do here is we're going to say we're going to get all post get all post gets, what we call this, more like a getter. So we do getter stores, and then I'm gonna say all posts response dot value. Okay, so now what this does is that this is an observable variable. When we make it observable, that means GetX is actually watching the state of the variable for changes. So at any time when the all post or when this variable changes, it's going to update the UI with a new value. So that is the power of GetX here. So since we're using GetX, I have to do this. So now what I'm going to do is when we make the API call, we're going to say all post response, right? Let me copy this. Coming down here, we're gonna say all post response dot value is equal to all posts. So now this way, whenever this GetX, I call it a GetX variable, okay? So whenever this GetX variable changes, the UI too will change with the new value of this. I'll show you that in the time. So now we have updated the variable, we have updated the, I think we are done with we can get all posts now. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to display it on the UI, try to display this on the UI so that you can see instead of this dummy data. As in here, remember we got all the posts and we updated the GetX variable here. So now what I want to do is interact with this variable from the UI so that anytime the variable changes, it will also change on the UI. What I'm going to do is go back to the get all post screen. So this screen, where is it? This screen. I'm gonna go back to this screen and it's the get all post screen. In here, remember we created a navigator stack, which is here. We created this navigator stack, which is in the widget, section of this project. Okay, so in here what we need to do is this list view, right, that you see here is gonna interact with this variable, this GetX variable that we are updating. So whenever this variable changes, this list view will update. So in that case, we need to wrap this list view with an observable kind of, let me show you what I mean. We need to wrap this list view, we need to wrap it with an OBX. OBX means that this list view is going to listen for changes okay. The OBX here means that this list view is going to listen for changes in the GetX library. So in order to use OBX, we have to import, before you use it, you have to import the, the get. It's from the GetX library as well. So this Listview now being wrapped is wrapped with an OBX, meaning that this Listview will update with a GetX variable, which obviously is this. So whenever this variable changes, this as well, the Listview will update. So now what we're going to use here is not just a Listview. We're going to use a Listview. For now, let's take this down. Let's comment this out. So we're gonna use a Listview dot builder. So previously we used and then see what is required here. You need to make use of an item builder as well. Okay. Alright, so when the right track. Previously we used just a Listview that contained a list of constant children, but this one is a builder because we are getting it from another source kinda. So the builder now is being wrapped with an OBX, and then the item builder is gonna, this is where the UI will be updated. The item builder is gonna return more like a widget that will display the list of items on the screen. So for now, we're also gonna have the item count. Okay, it's gonna count the list of items to be displayed on the screen. So this item count will depend on the number of items that we get from the API. So going back to the post controller inside get all post, if you check inside this all post response, okay, let's go this all post, right? If you check inside here, we should have a list of posts, something like that here. Yeah, we have a list of posts. Okay, so what we are going to do here is inside the navigator stack here, we're gonna say we have to import. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, in order to use the GetX, in order to have access to the GetX variable, we have to now say post controller. We have to call this controller that extends the GetX. We're gonna say, let's just copy this name. So we're gonna say post controller post is equal to get.put. So in this get.put, we're gonna have post controller here. Okay, so now we have to import this controller, and then now we do the get.put. Now we can now have access to this GetX variable that changes. Remember, it changes down here. So whenever we get all posts, we update the variable. So whenever it changes, at the same time, this Listview is going to be updated because it is being wrapped with an OBX. Man, it's listening to a GetX. So at this point, I'm going to say the post controller that we're going to get all posts get dot, we're going to get the post dot length. Okay, I'm gonna put something like a bound here. That's because of the null check, so that to get rid of that null check. Okay, so now we have the list of items right from the get the all posts here. We have gotten this. See this whenever this variable is updated, at the same time it is being returned. You can have access to it via this getter here. So in here I'm gonna say post controller, which we actually called up here. You understand? We initialize the controller here. So when I say post controller, then we're gonna say have access to all post get, then call on the posts and get the length of the post. So now for inside here, we're gonna get post equal to post on controller dot all post get dot post index. So at this point we're gonna get the current post, for each item in the list view. For each item in this list view, we're gonna have the current post at any particular index. Okay, so to get the index, the current index or the current position of an item or of each item in the list view, and it will give us the post here. So now we have to import that. So now we're gonna return a widget here, but remember we're gonna return a widget, and this widget will display to us how each post will look like on the screen. So to get updated, we're gonna update this container with this post item that we just got here. We're gonna update this post item. We're gonna use this post item to update the UI. I understand what I did, so I guess this might be tricky, but I'm gonna upload the code to GitHub, so you can go download the code and play around with it. So now remember that we created an item called post item. So I'm gonna copy this with the URL as well. I'm gonna copy this. You just copy one item and then I'm gonna paste it in here. Okay, so now we have the item. For now we are not updating the UI. We just return the constant post item. So let me rerun the app again and see how it looks. Okay, so there is a null kind of value here. So what we have to do is, I actually forgot to call on something. Yes, I'm gonna say so what we have to do is, this get all post method was not triggered. I actually forgot to trigger this method. So in order to do that, we have to come up here so that immediately we actually initialize this controller. Immediately we initialize it should automatically trigger this method here or function. So on top of here, I'm going to override a method called on init. Alright, so during on init here, immediately the controller is initialized, we are going to copy this. We're going to call on this function called get all post. Alright, so now in my console, let me open the console here. I'm going to rerun this, and at the same time I should print what we have here on init code triggered. Okay, so let's run this again and see it work. So while I ran it, I forgot I did something down here. sorry, while I run it, I did something crazy here. So what we have to do here is this. We have to pass in response.body, not see. We have to pass that inside here, not decode response. Okay, so now that should work. Now let's run it again and test it. Remember, sorry, please, in your all post from JSON, which was in the which we created in the model class all posts, please pass in your response.body here, and let's run this. So we run the app and you see all it displays to us the Cheetos, and that is because we actually, if you go to see, we have 1, 2, 3 Cheetos, right? And if I go to Postman, how many posts do we have here? We should have, since we have 3 Cheetos, that means we have 3 posts here as well. So if I scroll down, I see we have title description, testing description. There's 1, 2. Okay, yeah, we got 3 posts here. So we got 3 posts here. That is why we are seeing 3 displayed Cheetos here. But now remember that we did not update the UI with the details of the post. We check here, all we did that we got the posts, we got it, but we did not display it on the UI. All we did was we returned a constant kind of item. The item does not change, we just returned it, but for each post we get in the item builder, for each post we are supposed to update the UI. So we did not do that, and that is what we have to do. We have to update the UI now. Okay, so let me get rid of these comments that we have here, and then I need to get it out here. So now we want to display each post, right? We want to replace the dummy data with real post. Okay, so how do we do that? So now if you look at the mobile app here at my left hand side, we have a title, we have a description, and we have a picture here. So in here, let's go to this item, the post item. I'm gonna create 3 strings. Final string, gonna call this title, and final string, I'm gonna call this description, right? Okay, so we have to put that inside the constructor, this dot description, and also this dot title. Right, so in that way, whenever we see the text here, we're going to replace it with title, and the description here, we're going to replace it with the text. You're going to replace it with this description. So that is it now. Put the bank symbol, remember that, put the bank symbol here. Alright, so going back to where we use this post item, we just need to pass in the parameters here. So we have the image URL, we just need to pass in some few other parameters here. We need to pass in the title. It's going to be gotten from post dot title, and the description is going to be gotten from description, no, post star dot the description. All right, so that's what we have here. But it's showing me a red line. I don't know why. Let's go back. Let's get this out. Let's get this constant out. Get out this constant. We don't need that. No, we don't need this either. Coming back to the post item, what we need here is get this constant out. and then this will be a constant here. Okay, so now we have to deal with this image URL. Okay, so now we have to go to our postman, and if we go to the postman, you're gonna see okay, let's go up first. Let's go up to where we used the post item. So in here, let's create a string and call this image URL. Okay, so now if you take a look at this, let me just tell you what I've been done so far. So remember, for every list item, right, we need to get the image, we need to get the title, and we need to get the description, right? So for the title, inside the item builder, we get the post, and then in the post, all we have to do is call on the title, post.title, and in the description, all we have to do is call on the description, post.description. All right, so we pass it into this item here. Then for the profile URL, if I go to my postman, right, so in the Node.js that we did previously, what you would see here is that get image, we created an endpoint that all the endpoint does is that it will help us fetch the image from the database and return to us. Like for instance, let me do this. So if I run this endpoint now, the get image endpoint, if I just click on it, it's gonna return to us an image and that we can view here. So all we need to do is, to this endpoint, we need to just pass in the file name, which is the image name. That is all we need to pass into this endpoint, and then once we pass it into this endpoint, to return to us the image. So this is the endpoint, this is the URL. So for every image, all we need to do is append. We need to append a file name, that is the name of the image, to it. So once we do that, it will generate the URL will give to us the view of that image. All right, so all we need to do is get the file name from the post, append it to the URL, then pass it into the post item. In the previous video before now, we created this post item. Let me go there. So what I did recently is just that I had to make 3 variables here, one for the title, one for the description, one for the image URL. So these 3 variables here, I passed it, you need to get it from the constructor. That's why you see us here. While using this post item, we need to pass in those 3 variables. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We passed all of them in, and then we got it from the post object here. So this post item return to us a title. In the column here, we pass in the title, and then in the description here, we pass in the description. So also for the image.network, we pass in the image URL. So all these are gotten from the constructor. So for every item in the list view, all we have to do is pass in these 3 parameters, and then it will update on the UI. Okay, so I'm gonna upload a new image right now. I'm gonna upload a new post, and we're gonna run the app again, and then you see how it looks like. Okay, so this is it for the display feed, for the article feed. So let's just see how it works now. So I'm gonna go to the upload post, and then in here, all I need to do is pass in the title. So the title is, before, okay, I did one called my Flutter course. Let me change it to my software course, right? My software course. So I'm going to say this software course will help you learn how to upload and communicate with REST APIs. Okay, so let me say this in my description. I'm going to say this one, the full software course will help you learn how to upload and communicate with REST API. So in here, we need to attach an image. So let me just select our image from my computer here. So my desktop images, I don't want to use, okay, let's use this food. It's kind of like snacks, or the chips here. So I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to click on the upload, which is the send here. So this should upload the image to the database. Alright, see, successful. Okay, this is the message: successfully uploaded post, and the title: this is a wonderful software course. So in here, if you check, we have the file name. Alright, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna run the app, and this post now that we uploaded should show on the mobile app. So back to the mobile app, and here I'm gonna click rerun. That is we're gonna restart the app. So we're gonna give it a little time to actually run the app. Okay, so it's gonna run. It's just gonna give it a little time, so it's running the app. Okay, now this error occurs when we are still trying to load the data from the REST API. So that should be a schema or something like a loading effect. I'm gonna effect that there. So after it's done loading data from the API, if you scroll down, we're gonna see the image that we just uploaded. Okay, so I'm gonna scroll it down now, and then the image we uploaded, you're gonna see it. So down, these are all the posts or the articles we've uploaded, and you can see my software course, which was the last post we uploaded with the food kind of the chips, you know. You see, we have successfully fetched data from the API, you know, display on the mobile app. What we have to do now is upload post from the mobile app. So currently what we just did was upload a post from my Postman, but we need to be able to upload a post from the mobile app, which I think we're gonna do in the next video. So right now we're done with this video, and for now we've succeeded in using the post controller, which is the GetX controller, to update a list view. So you have the basics now. You should know how to work with the GetX. You can know how to fetch data from a REST API in the GetX controller and update the UI. You know, we're using the state management library there. So see you guys in the next video where we upload the post. I'm gonna design a screen. We upload the post from the mobile app to a MongoDB database, and then it will be displayed on the display feed here for us. Okay, so see you guys in the next video.